Welcome back to the Fox Robbins Business Show. Come on in, have a seat. We're going to talk about negotiation.
We are?
We're going to test out the coach on negotiation. Actually, it's one of his favorite topics, so it's, you know, he's going to be okay, I think.
I'm a brute.
This is the Fox Robbins Business Show. This is everything you ever wanted to know about small business, about just thinking about starting up a company or buying an existing company, or you already have a company up and running and it needs help, advice, or direction, or wants to expand, change operations, whatever's on your mind, we have an answer. Well, we do. We do?
We have an answer. I'm not sure if it's the right answer, but we've got an answer.
Anyway, we're gonna talk about negotiation today. I'm Bill Fox, the co-host, yes. But the other co-host, you know, now get this. This guy is portentous. He's torrid, and he is intrepid.
Portentous?
It's Coach Robbins.
I lost weight.
He does. He's the coach is slim and trim.
That's right. I'm not portentous.
I should have said aerodynamic.
Thank you.
And I have to be careful. This is a family show.
Yeah. All right.
All right. We're gonna, as I say, we want to talk about negotiation because it's that's like an everyday event in business.
In life.
And we're also.
You married?
Oh yeah.
Long time.
Is grass green? Yeah, you know.
Well,
you've
been negotiating. Losing most of them, I'll bet, like me.
We got negotiation. We have background, material from Lewicki, Berry, and Saunders on negotiation.
Good
They're
people.
excellent.
It's a good book.
So, Coach, introducing negotiation, we say it's something that everyone does almost daily. That's what you're telling me.
Absolutely. You've been doing it since you were sitting on Dad's knee and, wanting an extra cookie and looking cute and doing whatever you have to do to get it. And we do it every day. And in business, we do it every day, all day. So you better get good at it.
Well, speaking of which, it should be obvious, but I ask you anyway, why would you negotiate? Like, there are some different reasons here for negotiation, particularly in business relations here, like share or divide a limited resource, for instance, or something that people can't attain on their own, or resolving a problem. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first one there, share or divide a limited resource. We're gonna break different types of negotiation down throughout this next show, and that's one thing. There's what we call a zero-sum game, and we'll get into how important is the relationship. Is it important? Is it not important? As a construct to how you actually go about negotiating these things. So it's a zero-sum game, and naturally, you want to get at least your fair share, maybe more if you don't care about the relationship. It's something maybe that you can't attain on your own, and you're looking for a win-win. And of course, the most famous one is to resolve a problem or a dispute,
Right.
between nations, between you and your children, you and your wife, your husband, or you and a business partner or a business associate, a supplier, a customer, whatever. You're in business, you're negotiating constantly. So you got to get good at it. You really have to get, and everybody can get good at it. A lot of people, I don't like it, I don't get it. Americans have a funny attitude towards negotiation. The rest of the world, they expect you to negotiate, I mean, in the movie Casablanca, the guy's trying to sell Rick's girlfriend there something, 8 million rubles. Oh, it's Rick's girlfriend, give it to you for 4 million. And down and down. She never says a word. The price is dropping because they expect to negotiate. You walk into the bazaar in Casablanca and just pay what they're asking. They're going, what a sucker.
Well, clarify the terms for us, Coach. There's bargaining, but there's negotiation.
Yeah, there's a difference.
That's a distinction?
Absolutely. There's a huge distinction between bargaining, and I like to say driving a hard bargain. I like to put those words together. That's where, quite frankly, you don't care about the relationship. You don't care. You only care about, particularly if it's a zero-sum game, getting the biggest piece of that pie, if you will. If the pie is 100%, when it's win-lose, and I don't care about the relationship that I've got, which isn't very often, quite frankly, then it's a win-lose situation. That's bargaining. That's not negotiation. That's just hard bargaining, we call it. I like to put that adjective before it because everybody's heard the expression hard bargain. Yeah. I drive a hard bargain. Yeah, well, that's if you don't care about the other party and you want 75% and that's it. Now, negotiation, that's different. That's a little different. A negotiation, usually you're looking for a win-win situation, and when the parties can find a mutually acceptable solution to a difficult conflict. That's important, that the relationship's important, you want to go forward, and you want to both walk out of that room a happy camper. And that's what happens between you and your customers, that's what happens between you and your suppliers, between you and your investors, all of the stakeholders in a business, since this is a business show. That's mostly where you operate, is in the win-win situation or the negotiate. We call it distributive negotiation.
I was reminded of negotiation. I happened to be watching a rerun of the movie called Darkest Hour with Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
And the German army was about to wipe out the entire British force on
Dunkirk.
At Dunkirk or whatever, and people in his cabinet were saying, we have to negotiate, and Winston Churchill finally blurted out and said, you don't negotiate with a tiger when your head is in his mouth.
And you don't negotiate with somebody you can't trust, okay? You might bargain, a very hard bargain, but you're right. No, that's the truth.
We got some important themes that I think you're going to want to talk about to us.
Yep.
Defining negotiation.
Yep.
There's a term, interdependence, and you're going to explain that to us.
Yep.
And you're also going to understand conflict management.
Yep. Well, we did define negotiation. That's distributing, a limited resource, solving a problem. Interdependence is, again, what I was referring to. That's a relationship to people with people. And the first question I always ask is the relationship important? If I'm buying a car, the relationship between me and the salesman is not important. As a matter of fact, it's not really necessarily important between me and the dealership, because I can take the car to a lot of dealerships for service, What's important to me, and that is strictly a distributive a hard bargaining situation. I want to get the car for the lowest price I can get it for, No. Because again, I'm not marrying, I'm already married. I'm not going to marry the salesman. Or if I'm buying a house, up to a point, I don't even know the other people. I probably never even met them. It's my realtor talking to their realtor, and there's so many people in between. I want to get the best price I can on the house and just get moved in. So the interdependence is a question you need to ask. Is this relationship important? Now, understanding conflict management, it's a backdrop, different ways people manage negotiation. Conflict, the word scares people. Controlled conflict actually can help you get to a better solution for both of you. And we'll break that down as we go through the show.
Okay. We'll start with, negotiating negotiating situations, Coach.
Yeah.
Two or more parties, for instance, are conflicting needs or desires, hoping for better deals, expectations. Talk to us about that.
Well, that's exactly what the negotiation is. You got two or more individuals or groups, teams negotiating on behalf of, you take the players union in professional sports negotiating with the league owners themselves. They're interdependent. If the players don't show up, then the owners don't make their billions. If the players don't get certain things met, then again the whole thing breaks down. You get a strike, and then the fans are disgruntled. So you get teams of people negotiating, or just two individuals negotiating, trying to resolve something. But again, the first thing you need to ask yourself, is the relationship with this important? If it isn't, then I'm in a hard bargaining situation. I'm just going to drive the hardest bargain I can get, And I mean, negotiation's always hoping that there's a give and take process, and you're hoping that you can get a better deal than just accepting right up front whatever somebody's offering.
Okay. We're carrying on the idea of negotiating situations. There's agreement. You want agreement, and you want a successful negotiation.
Sure.
So talk to us about what's going on.
Well, I
here.
mean, an agreement is better than fighting openly. You know, it's better than just giving up and surrendering, as Winston Churchill would have told you. Breaking off contact permanently. You can take it to an arbitrator. You know, you and somebody else need to bring in an arbitrator, you know, like a judge in a situation, a legal situation. It's always better for the two parties to come to an agreement between themselves. And I believe in consensus, by the way. I don't believe in just giving up and saying, well, I'll give in, because you're not going to be happy with that. And consensus is a hard thing to reach, but that's a different subject. We'll probably get into it a little later. But successful negotiation means you have to manage the tangibles of the negotiation. That could be the price, that could be the terms, payment terms, it could be, you know, the property that you're buying, the car, the details of the car, the details of the home, whatever it is. You got to manage the tangibles, and you have to resolve also the intangible things. You know, some people very concerned about, you know, saving face, not losing and looking bad to their constituencies. I mean, certainly, again, to go back to the National Football League Players Union, they don't want to look bad to the players. They're representing the players.
Right.
But they have to bring certain deals. They're not going to get 100% of what they want.
Right.
So they have to negotiate, and they have to come to an agreement. But they do have to reach a consensus that this is the best we can do to go forward together, because the relationship's important. And we accept this deal, and we buy into this new deal 100%.
You know, I tell you, Coach, the most important thing I could say to you about negotiation is to advise you to step outside yourself into the other person's shoes.
Especially if the relationship's important.
If you could do that, it's the most important thing you could do is stop internalizing and thinking about yourself. Me, and I want, and this is it. And step outside into the other person's shoes.
Well, again, that's if the relationship is important. That's critically important, because, again, you can't reach consensus if you can't understand where the other party's coming from. You can't do it.
And interdependence. Tell us about this term. What's interdependence about?
Well, again, to use the example of the owners and the players' union, they are as interdependent, because no game, no money. The players don't make their millions. The owners don't make their billions. The fans don't get to watch what they want to watch, you know? So that's a perfect example that they need each other. They're interdependent, and that if they can work out a mutually agreeable situation, then they both go forward, and they're both getting at least part of what they want. And they agree 100% that this is the best they can do. They're not going to get everything they want, but this is a great agreement so that interdependently, mutual dependency, they can go forward. You know, it can't be win-lose, I win, you lose. That's not an interdependent relationship. It's got to be both parties gain something by being together. It's got to be win-win.
That win-lose is what you mentioned that several minutes ago,
Yeah.
a so-called zero sum. In other words, in a negotiation, if you win, I have to lose.
Right,
That's
exactly.
called zero sum.
And if the relationship isn't important, I know the dealer would love me to pay, you know, $50,000 for the car. Well, I want to pay 40. And so if I wanted to pay in 44, you know, they lost a little, I lost a little. But you know what? I really don't care. I'd just as soon get it for 40, because I'm not going to marry the salesman, like I said, you know.
Following on, I want to follow on with you about this interdependence idea as for negotiation is interlocking goals, not not everyone wants or needs the same thing, mixing of convergent and conflicting goals. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea is that you do have interlocking goals. They might be slightly different. You don't want exactly the same thing. If you want exactly the same thing, there's no negotiation. If you and I agree that this is wonderful for me and you agree it's wonderful for you, well, there's no negotiation. We're just going forward. This is exactly the deal we both want. But usually, that doesn't work. That doesn't happen. There's got to be some difference in opinion or wants or needs or desires. And yet there is an overarching goal, common goal that we're trying to achieve. And this is where distributive bargaining has no place, because I just don't want to beat you up because I have to go forward in some sort of a relationship with you, a business relationship in the case of business and entrepreneurship, certainly.
This interdependence it plays right into my point to you is that you got to step outside of your own
Absolutely.
body.
Yeah.
How would you even know there are interlocking goals? Say not everyone wants or needs exactly the same thing. Well, do I know what you need? Have I thought about that?
Yep.
Convergent or conflicting goals and whatever, well, I can't do that if I don't step outside of myself.
And I got a secret to how to find out what somebody really wants or needs. Talk to them. Go ask them.
Oh, talk to them. Well, that's
an idea, huh? Yeah. And also, naturally, trust has to be part of an interdependent relationship. That's for darn sure.
Right.
So when you're talking to them, you're being honest up to a point. You don't expose everything. I'm not saying just lay everything on the table. I really don't agree with that necessarily, but certainly you do want to understand, and not what they want, just what they want. I want to know why they want it too, all right? There's a wonderful iceberg picture that I wish we had put on the show. But if you go online and you look at it, you'll see what they want is the little piece of the iceberg up top.
Oh, yeah.
Their position. I want this. Yeah. But underneath, 7/8 of the iceberg is why they want it. What are their real needs? What are their wants, their needs, their desires? I know where they stand on the issue. Yeah. Why do they stand there? That's what you've got to get to. That's what you've got to understand.
But you got to think about that. Matter of fact, I don't know if it's possible in any situation to do some research. Get off your backside and do some research.
He who does the most planning up front probably will win, if whatever win means, a negotiation. Even if it's win-win, you still want to win a little bit more maybe of what you want.
I would say one thing I would say today, Coach, is that we're blessed in one way with the power of the internet.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm talking about, you're a businessman. You're negotiating constantly with another business, or a bank, or a
customer,
a vendor, whatever. You can go with your hot little fingers. You could go on the internet. It's amazing. For instance, if I'm with a vendor, company wants to sell me goods or services, look them up on the internet. They even have a website. You can go to that. You can click on something that says "About Us" on every website.
Yep.
And look up, a background of a company. Look at the top officers.
Yep.
You could look at newspaper articles about that company.
Yeah.
Look at their products and services, and so forth. Your research.
Sure.
Coach, there's no excuse. It's so easy and fast.
Just got to do the work.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to drag you back to the zero-sum idea here. Types of interdependence that affect the outcomes on negotiation. Talk to us again about
Well,
this.
again, and I like to repeat, if it's important, you should repeat it. A zero-sum game usually calls for distributive bargaining, hard bargaining, not distributive negotiation, It's one winner, it's win-lose. And like I say, if the pie's this big and I get 67% of the pie, I'm happy. If I don't care about the relationship, because you may not be as happy with it, but we're not going forward. I'm just taking the car, and I'm going to drive it, and I got a great price on it, and you didn't get as much for the car as you wanted to get selling it to me. And there's one major winner. I mean, certainly the car dealer is a winner in that they did get to move a car, and there are other reasons they want to sell cars, including service the car, but it's basically a zero-sum game. It's distributive and hard bargaining, hard bargaining, not distributive negotiation. But on the other hand, if the relationship's important and you want to have mutual gain, you can actually work, and I said work hard, to expand that pie. You don't have to just accept 50-50 or 60-40 or whatever it is. If there are ways to synergistically work together, and again, what we said a few moments ago, to actually do something to make the situation together even better, then now you've got mutual gain. Now you've got a good integrative negotiation.
So far, you have not mentioned that evil little point of view that you've got locked away in your brain that I know it's there, but I can't see it. And that little impulse inside of you says, I want to win.
Yeah.
I just want to win for winning. I want it all. I want to take it away or whatever. And that win-lose thing. I mean, you haven't mentioned that, but that little psychology is there.
Yeah, everybody wants to win. But, do you feel you won if you go into a negotiation, the relationship's important, and I got some of what I wanted, a lot of what I wanted, and they got some of what they wanted, but what we really have together is better than if we didn't negotiate in the first place, and we're going to go forward together. And that's the whole idea of an integrative negotiation.
But what you're talking about, though, is it's a discipline there.
It's a discipline
in business.
Yeah.
Is look at the long view at the
and the overall picture.
Overall picture.
Absolutely.
Okay. There's there are alternatives out there that so-called shape interdependent,
Sure.
interdependence idea. Talk to us about that. What alternatives are we talking about?
Well, the whole idea of working together. The alternative is together we can work and actually, again, to get back to the pie, expand the pie, right? That together we're going to have a better situation for both of us because we're going to work together to improve both of our lots. But even in any negotiation, you need to understand whether it's integrative, whether it's distributive, no matter what it is, whether the relationship's important or whether the relationship's not important. This is a very important concept because I ask people all the time when I'm entering into a negotiation, what's your BATNA? And at first they say, BATNA?
BATNA?
Yeah, B-A-T-N-A. Very, very important that you understand in any negotiation your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. In other words, if I can't get an agreement in a negotiation, whether it's distributive or not, what is my alternative to that? My alternative to going in and looking to buy a new car is I keep the car I've got, right? Nothing wrong with it. I'm not in there because I got to have a car. My car just died. That puts you at a loss, quite frankly. My alternative is I don't need to buy the car. I'm ready to buy a new car. Let's see what you can do for me. But my alternative is I don't buy a car from you, or I go buy a car from somebody else or negotiate with another dealer. I'm looking at a house. I like the house. But if I can't get the house for a price that I want, then I look at another house. So what is your BATNA? We ask that question before you ever enter negotiation. What is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement? You should know what your BATNA is at all time.
Okay. Now, what about mutual adjustment? There's a thing in negotiation called mutual adjustment, how parties act and influence each other. Tell us about that. What are we talking about here?
Well, in a short sentence, it's give and take. I mean, when you start a negotiation, you're adjusting, you're jockeying for position. If you watch on TV, the shows about buying cars or buying antiques, the group there that drive a van all over the country, can't remember the name of the show, I never really watched it, but I can see them, gee, I love that old antique there, what are you asking for it? Well, I'm not sure, Well, I was hoping to get, $300 for it. And they say, well, gee, I don't know, we got to fix it up, we got to do this, we got to do that. Would you take 100? No, I'd keep it for 100, but how about 2? And again, it's give and take. It's negotiation and meeting someplace in the middle so that, both parties are kind of happy with what they wound up with. So, there are twists and turns, moves, counter moves. I mean, that's part of what that's quite frankly the fun of negotiation, I mean, they started a price, you started a price, and they're different prices, and you're going to negotiate someplace in between, hopefully, and maybe, get something thrown in that, the example I always use is I bought an airplane once, and the airplane, they were asking $30-some thousand, I forget exactly what it was, and I offered $25,000. They came back to me and said, well, make it $27,000 and it's yours, right? Now, I'm at a airfield and the airplane has to be tied down, and there are all kinds of empty spots there that aren't bringing in any monthly rent. And at the last second, I said to the fixed base operator, I said, I'll take it for $27,000 if you give me a free year of tie down. Instead of paying, like $100 a month for the tie down.
Right.
He threw in something that cost him nothing. It's sitting there, it's empty.
Yeah.
I knew that he'd throw that in for sure just to get the sale made. It didn't cost him anything, and I gained something, and he gained the sale of an airplane and a tenant the second year that's going to start paying $100 for the. So that's what I call integrative negotiation and mutual adjustment.
I call, Coach, I've got more questions for you.
All right.
But we're going to have to cut off this episode and have a second part 2 on this, if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind.
Okay, because I got further information that's really valuable to our audience.
Good.
And so forth. So thank you guys for watching this episode. This will be episode 1 of 2. All the Fox Robbins episodes are uploaded to YouTube.
Yes, they are.
They're shown on appear on TV, but you're never quite sure when that's going to happen. So we put the show on YouTube so you can watch it at your convenience.
Right.
And you just go to YouTube, up in the little search box, type in one single word, Fox Robbins, FOXROBBINS, Fox Robbins, and click on search, and voila, there's the library, and
there we are.
Where we are. What there'll be on negotiation, there'll be two episodes. This will be the first, and we're going to do a second one to cover this subject thoroughly. Okay?
Sounds good.
And thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.